Dear Taqueando podcast listeners, I have great news to share with you. My Taqueando Fest is coming back. No, not the full festival, but we're going to do a little pop up. We did one in the pandemic, but just have not been active since then. It's largely been because of all the things that have gone on since the pandemic: fires, ice raids, just one thing after another. And so this year, instead of doing a big festival, I'm going to do a little pop up. And it's called Taqueando After Dark, and it's going to be held at Level 8 on Thursday, August 27th, and Friday, August 28th from 6 p.m. till late. You can find tickets already online at Eventbrite. And there are going to be more details forthcoming, but I have chefs coming from Baja California. I have got a couple coming up. We're going to have some great local taquerias. So stay tuned for more details. We haven't even really officially announced this yet, but the tickets are online and we're kind of putting together all the materials to share with you. So for right now, let this be your first announcement that my taqueando is coming up with a small event. There's going to be about 7, 8 taquerias there, and it's going to be one ticket to taste all the tacos. All right, and so reasonably priced. And again, you can enjoy the the view and the setting there on level 8 at the Moxie Hotel in downtown LA. Hey everyone, welcome to Taqueando. I'm your host, Bill Esparza. And this week, we're going to the Fontainebleau in Las Vegas, where I just had one of the most amazing modern Mexican meals of the year at Cantina Contramar. And joining me today is Chef Gabriela Cámara. Chef Gabriela has the legendary Contramar. You've all been there. It's on your Instagram feed. And not only that, she was chosen as Time's 100 most influential people. She's been on Tale of Two Kitchens on Netflix. She has her cookbook, My Mexico City Kitchen, written in 2019. But first, at Taqueando, eating antojitos is a way of life from the world's most celebrated dining rooms to the gritty stands and storied market stalls that preserve culture. Life is short, so we must eat well, and here are this week's Antojitos Rundown. Another beautiful addition to my area. So I live in Hollywood, but I'm not too far. I can walk to the border of East Hollywood. So Hollywood, East Hollywood, this is my domain. I love eating around this area. I love how it's evolved. So, I recorded in December 2025, I recorded this end of the year roundup with my producer and partner here, Robert, and Luca was involved. And so I said one of the best areas to eat was on Vermont. So what I was really talking about is Melrose Hill. At the time, I didn't think of Melrose Hill off the top of my head, but I'm talking about Melrose Hill. And you guys know there's amazing restaurants that have emerged in that area. And another one that I just had not been to yet was Etra. And Etra is a friend of the podcast. Luca is a big fan. And so, LA Food Podcast is a fan. So I went for the first time. That spaghetti al limone is out of this world. Just the brightness of it. Wonderful pasta. And then they have an amazing pasta that Ida wrote this up too. It's their pasta tagliolini alla grancio. And oh my God, that was so good. So um, for the price and the value, it's a lovely space. They have a great wine list. They have great apps and salads. I loved everything I had there, but those pastas are outstanding. I am now a fan of Etra as well. Have you guys been to La Troca Catracha? I feel like I have these readers of mine, followers of mine, that they will literally go to any place I write about, and but I feel like that's a small part. So there are places that I write about that become, part of the whole thing. Like Mariscos Jalisco, I was the first person to write about that. And who does not talk about Mariscos Jalisco? Tacos, recently, Tacos Royal. So many places that I write about that immediately resonates with the audience. But I love La Troca Catracha, and they now have extended hours, so you don't have to. I updated their hours on Eater recently. It's a write up I did in 2022 or something like that. Um, but we updated their hours because they have a second location. They are open on Wilshire till 3 p.m. and then they load up quick and they head up to Vermont, a little farther north, closer to me. And so, if you go to the Eater story and you look at the addresses, both of the addresses are on there, and they're there in the afternoon to early evening. So, one of the best things you can have in a chip bag in Los Angeles is the dish called zambos preparados. And zambos are a type of chip from Honduras, and they are uh, plantain chips. So they have different flavors. They're very popular in Honduras. I can get them here at the Catalina's Market, which is an Argentine market that serves all of the Latinos here around Hollywood and East Hollywood. And so I can get zambos there with different flavors. So you get your bag of zambos, and they put um, ground meat in there. It's like seasoned, really flavorful, spicy, salty, seasoned ground meat inside the plantain chips bag, and encurtido, some sauces, creams, um, Honduran hot sauce, which is not spicy. And so, my God, this bag is heaven, heaven on earth. And my a friend of the podcast and a personal friend for life, LA Times writer Gustavo Arellano, always goes there when he can, when he can make it up there. He's also a fan. So I need you guys to go to this place. I want to hear back from you. Everyone should be going. Robert, have you been to the Troca Catracha? Damn it. See? You're like the rest of them. Please support this truck. You're going to love it. I also had their enchilada. And, I know that most people when they think of enchiladas, they think of the rolled tortillas with sauce poured on top of them. And I know some of you gringos like the baked ones, but the Mexican ones are rolled with sauce on top. Both of them are great. Okay. Mexican American here. Yes, we have the baked enchiladas. But when we're talking about an enchilada from Honduras or other parts of Central America, like what Guatemala has their enchilada, these are tostadas. And the tostada enchilada from Guatemala is very different from the one from Honduras. And so I had the enchilada too. That same seasoned ground beef and a lot of those same sauce and a lot of those same sauces poured over, and then you have like a consomme that you pour over, and it's so damn good. Both just wonderfully seasoned, big flavored dishes. So get anything. The baleadas at La Troca Catracha are amazing. So baleadas for me are way better. I mean, that's not saying much, right? Because we know how I feel about breakfast burritos. But a baleada, which is a folded flour tortilla, and with eggs and Honduran style beans and avocado and cheese and cream. Oh my God, a baleada is a beautiful thing. Now the truck, to stay in business, they have a small Mexican food menu, and then they have their antojitos from Honduras, and then they have their baleadas. So go to the baleadas, go to the antojitos, and if you don't see it on the truck, I think they have it over the window, but get the zambos preparados. Okay? Recommended, recommended. Now, guys, we all romanticize about food, and I love good meals and great experiences. I mean, I'm so lucky and that I do get to eat a lot of great meals, both on the street in fine dining restaurants. Um, but I'm not one of these writers that gets all self-absorbed and like my life changes. You know who I'm talking about. Like life-changing bite. I'll never be the same. I cried when I ate this. Oh my God, get out of here. That's some stupid shit. Okay, but I can have a great time having a great meal. And so, a sponsor of the podcast, El Encanto Inn, I was up for the recent dinner for their El Encanto chef guest chef series, and oh my gosh! Now I have to admit I'd never heard of Restaurant Babu in Madrid, nor had I heard of Chef Coco Montes. And I had this amazing experience with him. I got to go to the Santa Barbara Farmers Market while he selected his ingredients for the tasting. Now, at Babu in Madrid, they change the menu every night. And, that can, you guys know, that can work really well if someone really has a great philosophy for that. And it can be a little hit and miss when it's not. It's a difficult thing to do. We are always rooting for an ambitious. We are always rooting for an ambitious chef that tries to do this. And so, what I found out from this thing is that like this guy really knows how to do this well. And another thing I learned is his mind was blown by the tomatoes at the Santa Barbara Farmers Market. Now, for us, I go to the Hollywood Farmers Market. I know all the food people. We've all the food lovers. We've been to the Santa Monica Farmers Market. So when you go to these farmers markets, look at the origins of each of these stalls. You can see it's up there. It's from, Oxnard, Ojai, Santa Barbara area, Ventura. So all the best produce is up there. It comes here. It arrives fast. It arrives fresh, but it cannot be fresher than being up there at that Santa Barbara Farmers Market. So this guy was in heaven, and he was saying that explaining to me, a Spaniard, of course, coming from this culture that has all these Michelin-starred restaurants and all this prestige and fame, but he was blown away. He said, "We don't have all these microclimates," and he could not believe the variety of tomatoes that were available to the chefs here in California. So he had a great time. Um, and I saw these beautiful green beans. So he did a fresh green bean dish, and he likes to, for someone who changes the menu every day, he likes to go with unusual flavors and take risks. And so there was watermelon in there and some herbs from the market. His mother, who's front of the house for Babu in Madrid, was like on the herbs. She was helping him select things. She's from San Sebastian, and he was like, yeah, the people from there, they know their ingredients. So she was rummaging through the various stalls there at the Santa Barbara Farmers Market. I loved every dish. These dinners, I have a lot of grace because when a chef is visiting, they're not in their own kitchen. They're not, a lot of times, they only are traveling with one chef. They are using the local staff, and that's going to be what it is. The kitchen's going to be what it is. And of course, no question about the ingredients, but it's very hard to do that. And so when a chef doesn't nail it when they're a guest, I'm not sitting there being, going to go up, be upset, or I'm not going to let it ruin my evening. I'm just going to say, oh yeah, I get this. I understand this is going to happen, but I've always had a good time whenever I've gone to a tasting. I'm not one of these people that's grumbling, and I might not go back to a place, or I might think differently of a chef after an experience like that, but it's not going to ruin my evening. But this menu was bulletproof. The heirloom tomato dish, which had sea urchin in it. So they skin the tomato, and then I saw him buying these other cherry tomatoes, that he used in the dish that got added while he was there at the farmers market. But the combination of the sauces he put on, and this beautiful beautiful tomatoes, Santa Barbara sea urchin, just an amazing dish. He did a smoked potato dish with a almond and horseradish sauce. Again, another hit with everybody, and something that really kind of floored me. Everybody does a crudo these days. They do their attempt at an aguachile, but this was the halibut and tiger stripe fig, like a sweet combination with fish. And so it did have, some contrasting flavors in there to play with all this. But oh my God, this beautiful, just perfect halibut and those wonderful tiger stripe figs here from California. Oh my God, what an amazing dish! And you know you get those little crumbles of almost like they feel like it's like crystallized sugar that's in the figs. That was on there, so good. The wagyu ribeye, the salt came from anchovy sauce. There was anchovies in the sauce, and with corn, just steak and corn, and so much umami from the anchovy. And there was some dark chocolate in there too. Crazy. This guy's nuts, and but just does beautiful dishes. And the summer peach, you know, this that was the dessert plus amazing wines, you know, and that was served with a sherry. But this idea of doing taking a beautiful ingredient, doing the minimal amount to it, which isn't doesn't mean just one thing or two things. Um, and sometimes I mean, yes, that can be amazing too. But the chef just had enough, just anchovies and chocolate with the steak and the corn, and just enough of the bitterness of chocolate in there to add bitterness, but not chocolate flavor. Um, really, really, such a beautifully subtle, elegant, well executed menu. And so, if you haven't been to, we've already plugged the El Encanto on this episode, but if you haven't been, it's your chance to experience chefs coming in from around the world, and it's just a couple of hours away on by car, or like me, just take the Amtrak, drops you off in downtown Santa Barbara, and just grab an Uber up to El Encanto. And here she is, Chef Gabriela. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's such an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
It's the honor is mine. I mean, you know, I've read a lot about your story, and it is kind of amazing. I think that this what started out to be just a casual, fun place for locals. It really was a kind of cantina, right? Contramar when you opened in 1998, like
Correct.
the
It really
yeah.
was. I mean, it still is, but yes, and it was just a very casual, comforting, um, uh, fun place to eat at and hang out.
I mean, in your wildest imagination, did you ever think it was going to become this big hit?
Never, 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 never. I read the other day that when you that was in this recommendations for foreigners that in Mexico City, if there were two things you needed to do, if it was your first time in Mexico City, you should see the Museum of Anthropology and you should go to Contramar. And that never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that very experimental beach shack imitation in the city would come to be, such a high end recommendation. But here we are, let alone, you know, a place like Fontainebleau in Las Vegas wanting a restaurant that was sort of an offspring of that. So it's been a really interesting ride, and I think what's most interesting is, and this is right up your alley, is how people regard Mexican food, and that's I'm very proud to have amounted to that in a way.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that I mean, what people don't know about Chilangos, and I know you're from Tepoztlan, that's where you grew up, and
Yeah,
but you've been how long? When did you move to Mexico City?
I've been living in Mexico City, and I've always been close to Mexico City because my father
Right.
is from Mexico City, and my family, my Mexican family is all in Mexico City mostly. I've been living in Mexico City since 1994.
Okay.
But I lived in Mexico City
Right.
between Chihuahua and Tepoztlan. So my base has been Mexico City since 1979.
Right. And for people like myself that we go to Ciudad de Mexico with this idea. I mean, it's such a big city. It's one of the biggest cities on the planet. It is
Yes.
so full of food, from restaurants to fondas to street food, that you don't want to leave it and you want to keep coming back. But for chilangos, and we can call you a true chilanga because you
Yes.
are
Yes.
from another place that calls Mexico City your home, and going
Yes.
to the beach, like a lot of people would go to Acapulco, and it's not that far away to get to the beach. It's not that far away to get to wonderful places like your Tepoztlan, to uh, Cuernavaca, all kinds of day trips you can take. But yours was
Uh-huh.
Cihuatanejo.
Cihuatanejo. Yes. My family found or went to Cihuatanejo for the first time, I think in the late 70s, and or in the in the 70s, and we would go over winter break because my grandparents, who didn't live in Mexico, uh, wanted the warm weather of Mexico's beaches, Pacific coast, uh, during their winter. And Cihuatanejo was a very, very, very small town in which the experience of fishing and eating the fresh produce from the ocean was just extraordinary and just dreamy and delicious, and a very good memory of childhood. Good enough that it inspired us to open a restaurant years and years after that.
Right. So again, it's like we don't think of mariscos when we think of Mexico City, but
Nope.
all parts of Mexico, everyone loves mariscos,
Yes.
and of course, chilangos got theirs at the beaches. Trips, richer chilangos could go to Mazatlan and places like that, but it was drivable. And of course, you had La Viga for a local
Yes.
style of mariscos that's still popular that you highlight in your other seafood restaurants and
Mhm.
Contramar.
But we do have this historical. I mean, Mexico City is a very, as you know, Mexico
Yes.
City is a very centralized. I mean, Mexico City is the center of a very centralized country. So in Mexico City, you have bits and pieces of every part of the country.
Right.
And we have the historic anecdote, not anecdote. I mean, apparently, Moctezuma, the emperor, got fresh fish from the ocean, because you do have the Gulf of Mexico and then you have the Pacific coast, and he would get fresh fish that was brought in rallies of people running to the
Right.
city from Veracruz. So um I don't know. I mean, I don't know when it became more popular, but fish always has been very popular. And also in Mexico City, we do have the waters of the zona lacustre of Xochimilco, and it
Right.
used to be a valley um, of, of water, right, with
Right.
all the channels, and we have also fish from river fish. So it's a city where fish has a very special place, and in all markets you have fish brought in all the mercados sobre ruedas, the temporary markets, or farmers
Yes.
markets, not farmers markets, but mercados sobre ruedas.
You like the flea
Um,
markets.
yes, you have all these fish stands or marisco stands. So it's a very, and I think it's not fish and seafood, the way we cook it in Mexico, in different parts of Mexico, is delicious. So of course people are into it. And of course people always want it. But it wasn't a high end type of food. It was I think Peruvians were first to make their seafood tradition more aligned to high end food. In
Oh
Mexico,
yeah.
our seafood tradition was much more sort of everyday market, um, not sophisticated, just kind of a delicious option. And now you
Right.
have all these very beautified versions of a fish taco, right? Um, but it's not, but it didn't start out as being sort of high end and luxurious. It was much more luxurious to have a very sophisticated mole, or it was much more luxurious to have um I don't know, other longer, lengthier um,
Yes, more
production
right,
dishes, like the right the chiles en nogada or other dishes that were more
elaborate.
lengthy, more elaborate. Correct. But now seafood has become a big highlight of contemporary Mexican food.
Right. And again, I think we now know of all the chefs and restaurants in Ensenada Valle de Guadalupe. Of course, that's very famous now for their mariscos. But when you opened in 1998, I mean, Mexico City, when people went to Mexico City, they would go to El Cardenal,
Uh-huh.
Arroyo, El Bajío, Café de
Uh-huh.
Tacuba, and seafood, if they went, they were like, no, I'm not, I'm going to do that like when I'm in Ensenada or San Felipe, or if I'm in Mazatlan. They would not think of, and again,
Correct.
there weren't high end mariscos in those places either. But you kind of
Correct.
entered the scene really at I mean, the only other modern Mexican restaurant that opened the same year you did is Pangea in Monterrey. You opened before Puyol, you were before all of it. And so I think when we see what's happening today in Mexico City, it really all starts with Contramar.
Wow. I mean, I do see how, I do see that, but it is very, it still surprises me. It really does. And I think that in the United States, particularly, it's been a big impact because I love that now more Americans realize, of this richness and complexity, of this cultural richness and complexity that is Mexican food. Before the impression of Mexican food, and this is your subject, was cheap migrant food, and now it can be sophisticated enough to be in the best um, venues, and people are into it. So I can't be more proud.
Yeah, and yeah, I do. I mean, I think it is remarkable what happened. Also, I'm sure you're seeing this now, the popularity of all of Mi Compa Chava and all these other seafood places that are open. Like mariscos are opening everywhere in Roma, Condesa,
Everywhere.
and that's
Everywhere.
again, it all goes back to Contramar and kind of fomenting that popularity of high end seafood in Mexico City.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
you took it to the United States. You waited a long time
Yes.
though. How come it took you until 2015 to open a restaurant like Cala?
Because I never really, I mean, my career as a restauratrice has not been a thought out plan from the beginning. It's been kind of what life, where life
Yeah.
has taken me. And I moved to San Francisco because I moved to San Francisco. And while I was thinking of moving to San Francisco, I realized that there was actually a place for a restaurant that didn't exist and that I could do. So I opened Cala, and I opened Cala with the best of San Francisco farm to table tradition and produce and incredible markets and awareness and the best of Mexico City kind of chic um, experience and hiring policies. And I want, I just, it happened that I opened in San Francisco, and I think I have so many, I have so much admiration for the food world and community in Northern California that I really did not think that there would be a need for a place in like that was Mexican or Mexican seafood. Even though for me, well, when I opened Contramar, for me, Japanese and farm to table and you know clean, good, and fair and slow food sort of ideology was always a part of um my background. So it made sense. It kind of did. It was easy to put the two together. And then
Yes, and
and then Cantina Contramar now is something very different. but I think that it carries kind of the same spirit.
Yeah, so that's what I kind of wanted to talk to you about. Is it like this,
Uh-huh.
this was a very prolific period for you because you did Cala in 2015.
Mhm.
You wrote your first cookbook, My Mexico City Kitchen, in 2019. You did that Tale of Two Kitchens in the same period. And which kind of brought you into this Time's most influential people. So you were very busy doing a lot of events during this time. So how did that kind of shape your approach? I mean, and we'll get into Cantina Contramar, but obviously you're coming full force, full circle with this restaurant, having learned all those experiences. Was this a kind of a period of growth in terms of figuring out the American market?
It totally was. And it was a period of growth in figuring out the American market and also in figuring out my role in the restaurant world. Not because I wasn't already a professional, but because I think that having to, the exercise of having to, of thinking about your work from a different geographical location makes it makes it more, just makes the reflection deeper, and you get and you and realizing that there was so much opportunity to teach about what Mexican food has to offer to the world is, it was really important. And I had been close to Diana Kennedy, who was the first foreigner to really understand like the, the richness of Mexican cuisine and to promote it. Uh, so I think, I mean, I was aware of how there was a need for that, but I was not. I do think that it was being in the right place at the right time, because social media really did change the way
Right.
everybody in the world can look at food, not eat it, because for eating it you need to taste it, right? But looking at food and desiring food, and making it a kind of um, aspirational, uh, sort of cultural, um, what is it called in marketing terms? I don't know, Arian, whatever. But I think that the fact that everybody now is looking at pictures of food and
Yeah.
videos of how to make food, and everybody is a foodie, and even the term came up, um, not too long ago. And the fact that I did have a foot in Mexican, even within Mexico, I had changed that perception of sort of informal seafood, Mexican seafood, right? Or beach shack or market stand, to a formal restaurant in Colonia Roma with formal service, even though Contramar is not that formal, but with formal
Right.
service in a
Yeah.
proper restaurant. Um, and I had innovated in Mexico City, but then to be able to do that in the United States was really wonderful, because it's always great to surprise people with good food. People always really appreciate it. And I think that's the beauty of this industry, that people want to be, people come to you to be looked after, and they're grateful, and they pay you, and they make your business possible, and you actually make their life better. So it's I think that the beauty of this industry is that you can, people discover and rediscover deliciousness or good service and kindness and hospitality when when you put yourself to it very seriously and conscientiously.
Correct.
But also when you enjoy it yourself.
Right, right. Doing you're serving something that you enjoyed as in your youth and your experiences. But it's funny that I mean what you were saying is really with Instagram especially the pescado a la talla and your tostada de atún became part of this the zeitgeist and still is. And it's very interesting. A lot of people, when they saw that, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this two sauces." But you've grown up with this, and we know about this culturally. That in Mexico we love mucha salsa, like
Campechano
huevos
and
divorciados,
campechano.
campechano. We
Divorciados
like
or campechano.
campechanos,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
and we want two guisados on our taco, and there's all these, and we put all the salsas. It's funny where people will say like red or green, and we're like both. We like both
Yes.
because they do
Exactly.
different things, right? And
Exactly. Exactly.
I think your pescado a la talla really captures that imagery in such a beautiful and a different way. It's crazy that no one ever thought of that up to that point of doing it on the fish.
Totally. I think it was I mean, it's one of those things that in hindsight weren't that it's really not that we we certainly didn't realize how relevant it would be. I never imagined it would be on the cover of the food section in the New York Times. I never imagined it would be the most photographed fish on Instagram. I never imagined it would be. I mean, it's just something that was a very good idea.
Do
And
you
you
does it
and you don't and I wasn't aware of it when we like I was not.
right?
I just thought it was. I thought, oh, it's gonna be great, and it's gonna be an option for people who don't want to have the chile. And again, it's this very Mexican way of campechano, and yeah, two sauces and huevos divorciados, because you can't choose between the red and the. Why do you have to choose?
Right. Doesn't it blow your mind though when you see one really skinny influencer sitting down by themselves in a giant fish because they have to have it for the gram?
I know. That kind of troubles me because I hate food waste.
Yes,
But
no, and I'm I,
but I
definitely
but I
that's the
do but I
serious issue.
do but restaurants are. I mean, restaurants are so many things, and one of the things that restaurants are is a place where people can and they do, right, where you can buy it and you can not eat it and it's yours because you bought it, and you can do whatever you want with it, but it's troubling,
Yeah, no, I right. Yeah. I agree. And
right?
and like I said, and I'm gonna follow up with that when I talk to you here next about the
Yeah,
cantina. But the last
yeah.
question I want to ask you here is that so you alluded to this, but since you opened Contramar and started receiving international, it wasn't long before uh Americans found out and started going there and put even before there were lists, they were sharing them on chat forums and different ways. People were you have to go to Contramar, and how much has Mexican food changed in America and the perception of Mexican food in America since you've from 1998 to opening Cantina Contramar in Fontainebleau.
Oof, so much. The first guide that Contramar was in, I think, was Lonely Planet, and that was like a huge thing.
Right.
And the first article that was written about Contramar was in the, I think it was the Washington Post or the LA Times. I forget.
Yeah.
But it was a huge thing. And Mexico has always been a very cosmopolitan city. Mexico City has always been a very cosmopolitan city. And I always was aware of how, especially this neighborhood, was accessible to foreigners in the city or to visitors. And I always welcomed, you know, uh, visitors from abroad, but certainly it was nothing compared to what it is now. So I think that from, in the past almost, now it's almost going to be 28 years. In 2028, we'll have our 30th anniversary, hopefully,
Wow.
which is incredible. Um, but as so many things that have happened in my career are incredible. But I think that it has to do again with what we were saying, right? It has to do with social media, with communications, the way it's changed, with travel, with the pandemic, with how when when the U.S. over the pandemic, the US had a quarantine period required for anybody traveling from Asia or Europe to the United States. So many foreigners made a stop in Mexico just because of the geographical location of Mexico City. I really do believe Mexico City could be considered, I mean, even if this is absurd geographically, but it is the center of the world because it's the center of North and South America. It's between Asia and Europe. It's kind of, it is very centrally located, um, exactly opposite to India, which is another sort of place of
Yeah.
confluence, right? Cultural, super relevant exchange. But I do think that this awareness also has to do with the way that Mexicans, Latinos in general, but Mexicans have gained stability in the United States, even though that is such a difficult thing to talk about now. But in
No,
terms
no,
of the
right. Yeah. I
generations,
understand you're not
right? There
talking
are,
about the current situation with ICE.
yes,
You're talking about
no,
over the decades.
over the decades, right? It's, it's, it's a growing population and it is affluent in a way that it didn't used to be. And, and I think that that identity, that food really gives identity in a way that few things do, especially when one is abroad. So I believe that that need, together with the possibility, the flexibility in travel and the different options of exposure that the food has and the availability of ingredients. Um, and it has to do with many things. It has to do with economics. It has to do with so many things, but I do believe that it has changed dramatically. I have seen it. I remember going to school in the United States in fourth grade and people asking me if we had chairs in Mexico. And now everybody's like, oh my God, Mexico City is so cool. Everybody now knows about Mexico City as a destination. Everybody knows about San Miguel de Allende. Everybody knows about Oaxaca. Um, and I remember, Oaxaca has always been a very sort of tourist driven
Yes.
city, especially over, different certain times of year. But I remember the type of tourism then and the type of tourism now is so different. And just the numbers are increasingly outstanding.
Yeah.
Um, so I,
People
I
are.
have
Go ahead.
lived that through my career. No, I've lived that. I've experienced it.
Yeah. I mean, definitely Oaxaca and Mexico City play a big part in educating Americans about Mexican food and Mexican culture.
Hmm. 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 Yep.
And so now, again, obviously things have been difficult over the last 6 years with pandemic and economic crisis and all kinds of things going on. But now you've opened Cantina Contramar, which I went to, and I really love what you're doing there. It seems like an evolution, a kind of evolution of Contramar. I know you're doing non seafood dishes, which you're not able to do in Mexico City.
Uh, well, I haven't. I mean, where is it? Where am I? Oh, I haven't done it in Contramar. Actually, I have to tell you one thing. When we
Yeah, tell
opened
me.
Contramar, we had a meat dish, and we realized that over uh, Easter break, where many Mexicans eat fish because of the Catholic tradition of Quaresma, yes, Lent. Um, uh, we sold more meat on Fridays, on Lent Fridays, than we ever sold. And then it wasn't really that popular. So we took it out. We took it out because we didn't have space and it was more, we needed more kitchen space that was only for fish just because of the equipment we had and the size of our kitchen. But in Vegas, we did plan it out that way. And
Right.
same as with Caracol de Mar, it's a restaurant where we do have meat, where we do offer meat. Also in Itacate del Mar, we do offer meat. Just because you plan it out that way. Contramar was always planned out just for fish. So it's good that it's just fish. Fish and seafood. But I think that it's not only, if you plan it that way, it's also, you open it to more people that or to bigger groups that in which somebody might not want fish necessarily. So you just have more of an option. And Mexican food is so varied and rich and delicious that you can find, I mean, vegetarian Mexican restaurants are amazing. And people have no idea that Mexican food can be so vegetarian, like so delicious in a vegetarian, super strict way.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I just think I concentrated on seafood because it was something that didn't exist in Mexico City then. And I realize I really have been a, a, a motor or a motivation for Mexican seafood restaurants to proliferate. But around Contramar, you find so many Mexican seafood restaurants. And in the world now, Mexican seafood is a thing that people know of, as you just said. Um, so, you know, it has to do with how delicious it is. And when people try it, you just want more, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, I had a great time. I had the aguachile de ribeye that you do that, and I love
Did you enjoy that?
I love the plating. You know,
Yeah, that's
so it
beautiful.
it's beautiful and it was very tasty. And then you know, again, I was like, okay, I'm by myself, so I'm not going to get a giant fish, and I'm not going to waste food. And I got your
But I
fideos
get it. I get it.
the fideos de mar, and I thought,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to try this, and oh my gosh, it was so good. The fideos are beautiful, and it's got some seafood in there, but that bolillo that you guys serve with it, that's
It's
made
good,
in
right?
house. Oh my
Yep.
god. So I'm like
Yep.
bread, fideos, mariscos, and like a guacamole, uh, salsa that or green salsa verde that was with
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Between those three, it's honestly, I'm like, okay, I would go there just for that dish. And I think they were saying that some of your guests have been confused because, like, this is not fideos or not what they expected.
And it's not spaghetti. It's not pasta.
Right.
Yes, but it's a Mexican pasta, and you know that it's an original dish from Contramar. When we opened, we had that dish in Contramar.
Well, it's perfect, and yeah, because I think again, this is one of those cross-border things that here in the United States we only have one idea of things. Sometimes we only have one idea of
Yeah,
fideos, and that's not just gringos, but also Mexicans that
totally.
have been born here like myself. We only grow up with one kind of fideos, and we don't know that there's a world of fideos in Mexico. So
It has to do, I think, with a very Spanish tradition because it's kind of like the fideuá from the north of Spain, and from the south of Spain. It's using pasta as you would use rice, right? It's that carbohydrate that you put with a little bit of protein or vegetables or in a saute, with saute onion and garlic, and basically just add on flavor. But it is cooked in a very different way than Italian pasta is.
yeah.
Even
Well, it's
Italian
got
pasta has
Mexican flavors,
different
so even
ways.
better.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And so you have now. Oh, and I also had the crab tostada.
Ooh, and how is that?
Oh my god, it was so good. So
That's one of my favorites.
I'm a crab tostada like fan and connoisseur. I'm always looking for good ones. Um, and so as long as the crab is fresh and
Yes.
and sometimes it has more mayo than it needs, but even those ones are good.
Yes.
But this was great.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you.
and and so so I know you have your staples. You have the pescado a la talla, the tostadas de atún, and some other hits. But can you just talk about like the Cantina Contramar menu and some other things that you're doing that you're not doing in Mexico, or is it sort of an amalgam of some of dishes from your other restaurants?
It if no, it's a very unique concept. It is. I mean, we have very specific dishes for of cantina, and I mean, we do have a few things that come from Caracol de Mar and from Itacate de Mar, and we do have just kind of Mexican classics that have become popular in the
The
United States,
gallonera.
such as the gaonera. Yes, that we have we made for Cantina because we thought, we just need to make a really good meat taco. And that
Right.
very good meat taco is is one of the most popular dishes at Gala. I'm sorry, at Cantina because, for example, at Gala we had no meat, and I was thinking of that. That's why,
Right.
uh, and it was very deliberate. It was again, it was a smaller thing, and it was a city where people were really into seafood and knew very fresh seafood. And San Francisco has this tradition, right? It's a city by the ocean. But in Vegas, we thought, no, we need meat. We need people are not going to go there if it's only seafood. So
Right.
it's very easy to think of delicious Mexican food, not only seafood based. So it's been a really fun experiment. Not an experiment, but a very fun project to do.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, Vegas is a great place to do this because of the labor situation. You have a big staff there, and you know, it reminds me of the way, which you know, you are famous for your service and really that's a focus of all your restaurants. But the experience of going there and the way the food comes out, the way you know the I sat at the bar and had some great Mexican wine and some cocktails, and just the whole experience is wonderful. The Fontainebleau is an amazing hotel and space. So now that you're there, and I believe you're the only big name Mexican chef from Mexico in Vegas. Is that true?
No, in
It's
the
just
big
you, right?
restaurants, in the big hotels, yes.
So now, do you think, you know, for years, um, Las Vegas has been a destination for fine French restaurants, the Robuchons and, you know, restaurants, various Robuchon restaurants, Talier. And so now that you've entered the scene and you have this amazing restaurant, can Mexican fine dining conquer Las Vegas?
I think it totally has. Even Enrique Olvera's project that isn't his anymore keeps on being very successful at the Win. And I think, and there are so many taquerias that are successful, but I do think that Mexican restaurants are here to stay in the world as another great food of the world. As Indian restaurants, or as Chinese restaurants, or as Italian restaurants, or I think French food is always sort of in a different category in terms of the romance around the sophistication of it. But
Yes.
this is what is so fun about presenting Mexican food in this category, because it's everything is to be discovered, and it's wonderful. And I think chefs are really enjoying, or we are really enjoying being able to do that with Mexican food, because we've always known, everybody who has come to Mexico to eat has been surprised at how rich and sophisticated um, Mexican culture is, and then food specifically, how specific of different types of year, different feasts, different traditions, etc. Um, much more beyond tacos, and much more beyond uh what is it, like, I don't know, garnachas and fast food.
Right.
But so I think there's a whole universe to be explored in Mexican food, and I love that. And I think the more we learn and respect Mexican food and ingredients, the better food is going to be even in Mexico. So I think that's wonderful.
Amazing. Yeah, and I really really enjoyed it. So I can't wait to come back.
Thank you. That's
I would book a trip to Vegas just to go to Cantina Contramar.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. I love that. We love that.
Um
We
so
in we everybody in Cantina thanks you for that.
oh,
We
no.
we work hard for that.
You do. It's a
Yeah.
great show there, and you know I know it hasn't been open that long, but it's humming along. I'm already seeing the Instagram posts with the galloneras. People are going crazy for the galloneras. So you're you know it's the menu is really uh, striking a note with a lot of people, which is great.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So
I'm very happy you enjoyed it.
I did. Now you you said there are more. there's more to Mexican food than tacos, and you're right. But I do want to know, what are your top three taco spots in Mexico City?
I love tacos so much. And I think tacos can be, I always say, tacos, everything can be a taco. Anything can be a
Everything
taco.
can be a taco.
You can put anything in a tortilla, anything that's good in a
Yeah,
tortilla, and you can make it a taco.
your
So,
pescado a la talla is a taco.
exactly. Um, I'm going to start by my most, like the places I go most to. Tacos Ola on Amsterdam. I keep on loving that place, even if it's packed with tourists. It's
For
really
taco de
delicious. And
guisado.
my, oof, the tacos, the chile relleno, delicious. Chile manzano is my favorite, and they don't have that all the time. And tacos Don Juan, I love the beef tongue tacos that they have on Thursdays in salsa verde, delicious. Um, Selene, which is also close. Uh, Taco al pastor, I love that. And you know what? I'm like, maybe it's just the day, but
Right.
La Hidalguense for an amazing taco de barbacoa. I love
They
La
still
Hidalguense.
do incredible food.
So good. So good. And you know, I'm just going to tell you, just because you talked about it, but one of my favorite tacos is the most absurd taco, which is like a torta de tamal, but it's the taco of fideo. So in a tortilla, you put the fideo. It's so good. A little bit of salsa. Delicious.
That's from the that's abuela's cooking, right? A taco de
Yes,
fideo. Yeah, we
totally.
all grew up with that.
Yeah, yeah.
It is,
Delicious.
and for me as
Carbs
a,
on carbs.
yes, and for me as a pocho, burrito de fideos.
Oof.
How about
So
that?
good.
Little beans, flour,
Delicious.
tortilla, fideos, perfect.
Delicious. Perfect.
And now that Mexico City is this incredible mariscos destination, outside, so you have, so over there you have Contramar, and you have what are your other?
I have Contramar, I have Entremar, I have Caracol de Mar, I have Itacate, and then I have Casacan, which is a small torta and taco uh, place of cochinita pibil. It's actually southeastern from Yucatan, you know, the pork marinated in the achiote,
Yeah,
and that is really good.
right. And Itacate is a nod to your hometown of Tepoztlan, because those are from there.
Exactly, exactly. But itacate is also something that you take from when you go to somebody's house and there's a party and they give you like leftover cake to take to your house. It's an itacate. Or when workers take food from their home to go, you know, for their to their work, it's called an itacate. An itacate is food to go.
Right. Okay. I only know of the dish. I didn't know that also had it, but I'm not from Tepoztlan, so
Yeah,
I'm glad
but
I
it's
learned
in
something
Nahuatl.
today.
Yeah,
No,
you did. You
I,
learned a word in Nahuatl.
and so uh, so outside of your restaurants, which we recommend for
Yes,
people to go to for mariscos, I mean, if you've never been to Mexico City, I mean, Contramar is a legend. Everyone's going to go there. They're already going. We know they're going. So,
yeah,
what are three other places that have popped up recently? Or and actually, if you could give us a classic too from the before Contramar days, if you have a place, but maybe you can
yes.
give us a couple of your favorite mariscos places in Mexico
Yes,
City.
I used to, you el oh my goodness, how can I be forgetting El Danubio? El Danubio was a reference for me in
Oh
terms
yeah,
of mariscos before opening Contramar, and it's a restaurant that is growing old, but it's so beautiful and cool, and I still love it. And and then of course Ultramarinos, which is like the uber cool um, Mexican, but like Europeanish Lucho Martinez restaurant, seafood restaurant, and I love Ultramarinos. So many. I love. I mean, let's see what other. I mean, of course, mi compachada is ridiculously good, and it's very. It's kind of this. It's a representation of like Sinaloa seafood, right? But you know
Right.
who is an incredible chef of seafood, and his first pop up was at Contramar with us on an anniversary. His first pop up in Mexico City, but Mariscos Don Vergas, even though I hate the name, and
Right. Yeah, we
Luis
hate the name. I
Valle, the
hate the
chef,
name too.
the Luis Valle, the chef, calls himself Don Vergas, and you know what? Fine,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's his choice. And but he has opened several really good seafood restaurants that have closed because of bad administration and
Right.
or different issues with partners, whatever. But wherever he cooks is really good. Uh, and I, you know what I love about Mexico City is that so many restaurants have added seafood into their or seafood
Right.
dishes into their menus, or tostadas now happen to be a vehicle in sort of high-end trendy restaurants when before they were never that. uh, so I kind of put that in the map, sort of these antojitos that were so not part of the fine dining scene, now are a part of the fine dining scene. And
No,
they're made with so
we can give
much
Contramar
care
the
and
flowers.
detail. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. But I love that so many restaurants have delicious seafood now. Basically, I think any restaurant in Mexico City now, any of the new trendy well established, popular restaurants will have a seafood dish,
Yeah.
at least
And
a ceviche, a tostada, soup, carpaccio, tiradito. And I think that's great.
right,
And the
it's
more
become
we
part
could,
of the
yeah,
it's become part of the canon, just like mole
yep,
and
uh-huh,
recaudos from the Yucatan, that somebody
yep,
does a ceviche or a tostada. And the two inspirations we know are Ensenada and Contramar in Mexico City, are
yep.
really the two hubs of this popularity, knowledge, and style.
And so much of Contramar was inspired by Ensenada and the carretas of tostadas, alongside same as the beach shack on the Pacific coast. On the Pacific coast, you have all these food stands of the fisheries or fishermen or the boats that come in and have all the shellfish that they just open there for you and make into cocteles, vuelve a la vida, tostadas. Um, just add lime and different sauces and mayonnaise, and that was our inspiration. And I love that now it's so good that everybody does it because it's delicious. And I just hope that we keep on paying attention to the purveyorship of seafood,
That's really important.
because that's really really important. Yeah, because we do end with species if we take too much from the ocean at the same time. So it just needs to be regulated so that they can last.
Yes, sustainable seafood is an issue.
Yep,
We've had Andrew Zimmern on, and he has a
yep,
book that talks about it, and a documentary that talks about it. So yeah, we urge people
yep,
to only purchase and consume sustainable seafood. Um,
yeah.
Chef Gabriela, thank you for being on the podcast. I cannot wait to see you at. Hopefully, I can catch you one of these times at Cantina.
I would love that. I would love to see you there. Yes, thank you. You're very welcome to come whenever you can.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. It was really wonderful talking to you.
No, wonderful talking to you. Thank you for tuning in to the Taqueando podcast this week. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode. And please leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcasts.